have to say those 4 years, I feel like Marcus and Dad, in a way, gave me a break. They were kind of like, okay, look, we'll give you these few years, enjoy yourself, but you're going to have to deal with this at some stage. But I thought if I ignore it for long enough and just, like, I always knew the dark cloud, it was always there. I could always see the dark cloud of grief. I know people talk about the dark cloud of depression. For me, it was the dark cloud of grief, and it was always going to be there. But I always kind of felt like if I just didn't look at it and kind of kept turning away from it or walking away from it, that it wouldn't catch me. But like everything in life, it always catches up.
Yeah, and like obviously then you went on to do your masters, and that's kind of when things got a bit difficult for you. And instead of really kind of maybe it being a bad thing, it might have been a bit of a breakthrough for you in terms of coping with the grief.
Absolutely. And I started that master's in journalism because I wanted to be a student for one more year because 4 years wasn't enough. I wanted a fifth year. And also I was like, you know what, I want to go into journalism. So I was like, maybe having a master's wouldn't be a bad thing, you know, to go further again, because you know, Ireland, the media industry is so small. So maybe if I had a master's on top of that, it might make, you know, help me in my job hunt.
Yeah.
Yeah, during that year, that's when like things got really dark. And my mother said to me at the time, and I say it all the time, and I've said it in all my books, I thought I was having a breakdown, but Mum said, no, this is a breakthrough. And I think, you know, the language we use in terms of these sort of experiences is very important, because we often use those as negative. We always often look at them as negative experiences because they feel very negative, and we also always use negative language. So then therefore it just seems like it just gets worse and worse and builds. Whereas if you use kind of more positive language, it kind of, when you think, oh, I didn't have a breakdown, I actually had a breakthrough, it actually sounds so much nicer already. And you're kind of, and then in your head you realize I am having a breakthrough, and sometimes you have to hit the bottom to get back up to the top. And you know, there's a lot of ways to kind of look at these negative experiences and put a positive spin on them and see them in a more positive light. So for me, yeah, when I say I hit rock bottom, like I remember one morning I was lying on the cold tiles on my kitchen floor in my apartment in Galway, and I remember it was, the tiles were freezing, but I was crying so much and my chest was so heavy I couldn't actually physically get off the ground. And all my friends had gone to college, so I knew that they weren't there. So I just was on the ground. I remember the pain in my chest because the tears were just almost, it was like I was coughing up tears and coughing up grief. And I knew I had to do something because I was on the floor and I knew I was in trouble. So I texted my mother and I was like, where are you? I was like, I need help. And it turns out she was in Galway City that day having coffee with my auntie, because, you know, we're not too far away. So within, I'd say 10 minutes, Mum was at my apartment, and herself and my aunt came in and they saw me and they physically pulled me off the floor and put me on the couch. And that's when Mum said, I was like, I'm having a breakdown. And she was like, you're not, you're having a breakthrough. And she was like, this is it now. You need to deal with your grief. You've ignored it for long enough. And I was like, it's not grief. I was like, I'm depressed. I've got depression. I need medication. I need like help. I remember at the time saying to her, I was like, you need to send me to rehab, or you need to send me somewhere. I was like, clearly something's really wrong. And Mum was like, this is grief. You are grieving. And she was like, you need to deal with this and face this. Otherwise you're never going to get through it. And I remember the time being like, I'm grieving. And I was like, I don't think I am. I was like, but Marcus is dead at the time, like 5 years, and whatever, Dad is 4. And she goes, no, she's like, this is what it is. So that was a huge, I guess, turning point in my life, because suddenly it was the realization that, oh, I'm actually grieving. And then I was like, right, because I'd suppressed the grief for so many years, I had that many years of grief to go through and to work through. So I knew this was a long process and I had years ahead of me. And I think that's where a lot of people maybe get discouraged and think, oh, I just can't face that. But I knew that I missed being happy, and I missed being good crack, and I missed being the fun party person that everyone knew from college. I wasn't that person anymore, and I actually missed it. And I was like, I want to be back to that happy girl who's on the dance floor, you know, dancing until like sweat was pouring off me, and loving all the tunes and the cheesy music, and like having all those fun times. Like nothing like that was fun for me anymore. I'd go on a night out and the music didn't sound good, and I didn't like where I was, and everything was negative, negative, negative. Whereas I missed, but because I'd experienced it, I wanted to get that back. So that's when I guess the real journey began.
Yeah, and say like when it came to actually getting through that process, did you try counselors? You were saying you needed to go and see someone. Like what kind of did you do, or did it all come from within and the people around you?
A bit of everything, actually. So my housemates at the time in Galway, they knew I was obviously suffering. It's funny, they saw it before I did, because everyone could see that I had started going down that self-destruct mode. And the girls one day, I never forget, we're watching Home and Away at lunchtime, as you do in college, and the girls like, right, come on. And I said, what? And they're like, we're bringing you to the counsellors, college counsellors. And I was like, sorry, what? And they're like, yeah, no, come on, now is the time, you need to go. And the three of them were looking at me like, you have to go. And I went, okay. So I went into the counsellors on campus, and I was there maybe for like an 8-week stint. But I remember being there giving out about everyone and blaming everyone for my sadness and my pain. So I wasn't at the point where I was ready to talk about me and inside, because I still didn't recognize that. But I suppose being there and getting into the mode of being a counselling was always going to be a good thing. Even if I felt like nothing good came of those sessions, it was still walking into a counsellor's office and booking an appointment and talking to someone. So that was the first kind of big stint then. And then eventually Mam found a counsellor for me that she knew of from Galway from years ago, and he was amazing. And I remember when I went to him first, I was like, oh sure, look, we'll see, I'll just go because Mam wants me to go to counselling. And oh my God, it was incredible. And then I realised at that point that I needed a male counsellor, because I'd lost my brother and my father, the two most important men in my life at the time. And it was the lack of the male figure in my life that I was missing. So that's what I needed for counselling. I could, at least when I was talking to a man, I was in some ways seeing my father and my brother. So I was able to really kind of dig deep. So I did some sessions with that man for a couple of weeks, and it was just incredible. I did a lot of, like, my mum would have sent me to a lot of alternative healing. I've done Reiki, I've done like massaging, I've done acupuncture, I have done all those sort of healing sessions as well. I've been to mediums, I've been to tarot readers, I've been to like Reiki masters, pretty much everything. When I kind of started down that road, I was like, I will try anything. And I did. I tried everything and anything. And I have to say, I got something from everything. And, you know, I really strongly believe in alternative healing and alternative medicines, and they really worked for me. But also going to the counsellor and therapist who had years of training and practice also benefited me. Going to the medium was really transformative, because I was able to reconnect with Marcus and Dad. Like, there's so many different people I went to see that all played a massive role in my healing process, and everything was just brilliant. And I think as well, when you're going through tough times, you have to be open to trying different things. Like, you know, acupuncture may not work for someone else, but you never know until you try.
Yeah.
You know, it's all like, I've done generational healing where I've gone on a day with a group of people, and we've gone through generations of healing back to our ancestors, because we carry trauma from our ancestors, and that was hugely powerful. So, you know, I will literally try anything. I will give it all a go. So yeah, there's been a lot of counselling, a lot of therapy, a lot of reading, a lot of writing. I was always a writer anyways. That's not something that just started when I started grieving. I was always writing diaries as a little girl. So that's massively healing as well. Talking, exercising, fresh air, nature, animals, everything.
Definitely.